If you will bring my mic down just a little bit. That's good. Thank you. Good morning. Welcome to this Sunday morning at Presbyterian Church of the Covenant in Greensboro, North Carolina. We're always glad to see each and every one of you. I thank you all for wearing your mask. We do continue to wear our masks as we see COVID numbers go up and the social distancing as well. Quick reminder, we do ask that you try not to congregate in the aisles here or in the hallways. Try to maybe move some of our longer conversations outside, if you will. That would be great. You probably noticed there are baskets. Instead of passing the plate, we have put baskets at the entrance and exit doors. So please be aware of that. If you're online, we welcome you as well. Please, in the comment section, we'd love it if you would leave where you're watching from. Lets us know how many folks and from where are joining our local spiritual community. Couple of quick announcements. First of all, on the back table, you're going to find a list there that Joyce Powers put together for us. It's a list of all the organizations that benefited directly from someone in our congregation during the COVID shutdown. You're going to find that there's somewhere around 150 different organizations that were directly impacted by some or at least one of you. And for this small congregation, that is something that you should be patting yourselves on the back for. It means that you really do get what we're supposed to be doing and that you're actively involved in our community and are out there making a difference and showing what love looks like in action. So thank you for doing that. You also find back there a basket that's going to go out the second Sunday of every month for Pennies for Hunger. Since we're not gathering for meals right now because of COVID, we still want to be able to contribute to that really important effort that ends up helping folks locally and internationally. So please be aware of that. And then some announcements that are a little more somber, much more somber. For those who may not have heard, we've had several passings in our congregation. Chipper, your stepmother, has passed recently, and the service was yesterday for her. And someone will have to help me. It's a member that was on the rolls when I arrived, Miss Steele. I cannot think of her first name. Say that again? Maven. Maven Steele has passed this weekend. Wanted to make sure people are aware of it. Folks let me know this morning. And for those, I think most people know from our newsletter that Tara Brown has passed. She has struggled with depression for a while and passed this weekend. The tentative plans right now are that we will be having the funeral service here in this sanctuary at 10:45 on Tuesday. That time isn't 100% yet, but it's very likely to be the time that we will have that service. So please keep that in mind, and we would love to have you here to recognize Tara and celebrate her life. Are there those who have other announcements that you would like to share? If not, then I'm going to begin with our scripture for today. It comes from the book of 2 Timothy. I'll be reading from chapter 4, verses 1 through 5. In the presence of God and of Jesus Christ, who is to judge the living and the dead, and in view of his appearing and his kingdom, I solemnly urge you, proclaim the message. Be persistent whether the time is favorable or unfavorable. Convince, rebuke, and encourage with the utmost patience for teaching. For the time is coming when people will not put up with sound doctrine, but have itching ears. They will accumulate for themselves teachers to suit their own desires, and will turn away from listening to the truth and wander away to myths. As for you, always be sober, enduring suffering, Do the work of an evangelist. Carry out your ministry fully. May we add blessing, meaning to the reading of these words. David, I'm wondering if we could get you to share a little music with us, sir.
Sure, yeah. My name is David Craig, and I'm a classical guitarist. And today I'm going to play a few songs. I'll play one. This is one that came out during a lot of times, a time when there was a lot of problems going on in the world, and unlike today with a lot of problems that we have now. It's just a reminder that this can still be a wonderful world. This is called "What a Wonderful World" by Louis Armstrong. And this is a hymn called "Ah, Holy Jesus." And this is an arrangement by Jeremy Carey.
Thank you for that, David, so much. It's absolutely beautiful and the talent, your skill. Thank you for sharing it very much. We will definitely be coming back and asking you for some more music in a bit. My message this morning is entitled The Litmus Test for Following. So, at the height of World War II, Protestant theologian Dietrich Bonhoeffer was imprisoned for taking a stand against Hitler. A group of Christians who believed that Hitler was the Antichrist asked Bonhoeffer, why do you expose yourself to all of this danger? Jesus will return any day, and your work and your suffering will all be for nothing. Well, Bonhoeffer replied, if Jesus returns tomorrow, then tomorrow I'll rest from my labor. But today, I have work to do. I must continue the struggle until it's finished. From our reading today, the final verse, as for you in all things endure afflictions, do the work of bringing good news, fully do the work of your ministry. I think that the words of Dietrich Bonhoeffer in this verse from 2 Timothy have a lot to tell us about who we are supposed to be and what we are supposed to do as people who are striving to follow the teachings of Jesus. And the verse is particularly interesting, at least it should be as Presbyterians, because the last word, ministry in Greek, diakonia, which is the word that we translate as deacons, or at least the roots of the words deacon, which of course is part of the duties of those that are installed as elders in the church, to be deacons, leaders, those who meet the needs of the church. Now, Bonhoeffer shows us what that kind of follow, that kind of Christian leadership looks like. If Jesus returns tomorrow, then tomorrow I will rest from my labor, but today I have work to do. I must continue the struggle until it is finished. 2 Timothy tells us that in all things we are to do the work of bringing good news till our work is finished. Now, what we will find is that while that all sounds wonderful and even somewhat inspiring, putting it into action isn't always all that simple. In part, because I think we get too easily confused about what following actually looks like. Our text says, proclaim the message. Well, okay, but what message? All you have to do is to flip through the TV channels on any given Sunday to see that there is, shall we say, some disparity in what exactly the message is. Now, the text also says that the time will come when people will not put up with sound doctrine, but have itching ears. Great, again, but what is sound doctrine? And what is doctrine that should be avoided at all costs? Most devout Christians, not surprisingly, believe that their particular way of understanding Christianity is, of course, the right way, sound doctrine. But when denominations are splitting in half over theological questions, and people are leaving one congregation for another over something the minister or a Sunday school teacher said, well, we can't all be right when we disagree that strong. Even if we think we are. What we need is some sort of litmus test. A simple way to evaluate if we are following Jesus, or if, as the text suggests, will happen to some people, we are following teachers who suit our own desires. Now, most of you have heard me give enough Sunday morning messages long enough now that it should not surprise you to hear me say that Martin Luther King is one of my personal heroes. The day before he died, in his last sermon, Dr. King said, like anybody, I would like to live a long life. But I'm not concerned about that now. I just want to do God's will. Now, in his statement rings echoes, I think, of Bonhoeffer's, if Jesus returns tomorrow, then tomorrow I'll rest from my labor, but today I have work to do. I must continue to struggle until it's finished. And also echoes of 2 Timothy as well. As for you in all things, endure afflictions, do the work of bringing good news, fully do the work of your ministry. In his last sermon, besides making that statement, that the most important thing in his life, including his actual life, is doing God's will. In his last sermon, Dr. King revisits the story that Jesus told when he was trying to teach us about doing God's will, the story of the Good Samaritan. And in it, Dr. King gives those who passed the hurt man by, he gives them the benefit of the doubt, pointing out that that particular stretch of road was known to be a very dangerous road, and they may have feared for their own lives. And he imagined them asking the question, if I stop to help this man, what will happen to me? What's going to happen to me? Then Dr. King cuts to the heart of the story, and for that matter, to the heart of my message for today. He said that they asked the wrong question. They asked, if I stop to help this man, what will happen to me? But the Good Samaritan asked, if I do not stop to help this man, what will happen to him? Give me just a moment. I had a technological leap up there. Got to get back to where I was. So he asked the question, what will happen to him if I do not? And that is the question that not only Dr. King asked, but it's the same question that love should ask. If I do not stop to help this person, what will happen to them? It's the question that caused Abraham to plead for God for the lives of the people of Sodom. It's the question that led Daniel to face down a literal giant. It is the question that led the prophets to literally risk their lives in order to point people to a better way. It's the question that led Jesus to the cross. No greater love has anyone than this, that they lay down their lives for their friends. It is the question of love. And that is your litmus test. How do we follow? How do we know if we're proclaiming the right message? How do we know if we're doing God's will? we ask the question of love. Does the teaching lead to greater love? Does the action not only come from a place of love, but result in the person knowing that they are loved? Love is the litmus test we need. And not fall prey to temptation to say that it is naive to think that we can love everyone, even our enemies. It is not naive. It is an acknowledgement of what is sacred. Do not fall prey to the temptation to say that it is naive to be forgiving of those who hurt you. It's not naive, it is love. Do not fall prey to the temptation to say that it is naive to make sure the basic needs are met for even the least of these. It is not naive, it is love. It is acknowledgement of what is sacred. Following, practicing, and proclaiming love means matching our weekdays with our Sundays. Following, practicing, and proclaiming love means being willing to risk loving your enemies. It means when you're faced with someone in need, asking the question, if not me, who? If not now, when? It means always answering those questions with love. In accepting his Nobel Peace Prize, Dr. King had this to say about love. When I speak of love, I'm not speaking of some sentimental and weak response, which is little more than emotional bosh. I'm speaking of that force which all of the religions have seen as the supreme unifying principle of life. Love is somehow the key that unlocks the door which leads to ultimate reality. This Hindu, Muslim, Christian, Jewish, Buddhist belief about ultimate reality is beautifully summed up, he said, in the first epistle of St. John, chapter 19. Let us love one another, for love is of God. And everyone that loveth is born of God and knoweth God, and that loveth not, knoweth not God. For God is love. We love one another. God dwelleth in us, and his love is perfected in us. A really long time since I had to read from the King James Version. Felt like I was stumbling all over the ifs. Love is the litmus test. Love is the litmus test. Love of God and of neighbor is sound doctrine. In fact, according to the teachings of Jesus, it is the sum of all the doctrines. Love God, love your neighbor, and as we learn in the Good Samaritan, anyone in need is your neighbor. So, for those of us trying to sort out how to follow the teachings of Jesus, I give us this charge: love. That's the charge, love. Measure the success of your discipleship in units of love. Let love be your compass, your companion, and your full-time commitment. Hold on to it with reckless abandon. Let it be your unifying principle in life. Let it be your first and your last word. Let it be in your every action. Let it be your litmus test in all things. David Craig, would you spoil us a little more with a few more of your songs, please?
This is a hymn from 19 by the Edmund Hopkins Singers. It's an arrangement of the hymn Philip Doddridge called "Oh Happy Day." This is called Registro. It's a prelude from the suite called Suite Venezuelana. And it's by Antonio Lauro. That's a classical guitar concert repertoire.
David, thank you so much for that. For those of you who aren't online, where we can see prominently that a place to get more, if you would like to hear more from David, is his website, davidmichaelcray.com. So you guys know it's a good place to check him out and enjoy more of what his skills allow him to do that the rest of us just dream. So thank you for sharing that with us. I also want to again remind everyone as you leave, please try to not congregate in the middle of the aisles so that folks who aren't as comfortable around other folks right now have an easier way of passing. Continue wearing your mask until you're outside. We really appreciate that. And again, if you missed it coming in, there are donation baskets at each of the doors. Online, you can go to athinkingchurch.org, which is on the screen right now, and click donate. And you can help support the ministry that we do here at our church in Greensboro, North Carolina. Let's now enter into a time of a little more reflection, a little meditation or prayer. And if you are willing, please bow your head with me as we go into this meditation. Following the teachings of Jesus and so many other great spiritual guides is times more difficult, than we ever imagined. Not just because loving our enemies is so difficult. Not just because giving away what we've worked hard to own is so hard. Not just because forgiving can feel so counter to our human instinct. Because there are so many messages out there about what following love looks like. May we not only have hearts that long to walk in the teachings of love, but minds that earnestly seek to step in the right places. May we learn to follow mindfully rather than blindly. May we seek out a path that makes the world a better place for all people rather than simply for ourselves. May we have instilled in us an understanding that faith is not solely about our own personal souls, but about the entirety of creation. May we be encouraged to express love more fully in each of our actions, and in doing so, may we grow closer to each other and begin to help heal the world. Amen. Again, we thank you each for being here. And before you leave, receive this blessing. May you walk in harmony with each other and with creation, recognizing that we are one. May you know love and happiness throughout your life. And may your words and actions bring that love and happiness to others. Go now in peace and in love. Thank you for coming.